only eating 1,200 calories, but I'm not losing weight.
I would say, categorically, you're not tracking your food correctly.
I've been in a deficit and I've been working out, but I'm gaining weight. Is this muscle?
You should be seeing the scales come down as a trend. And if you are not, you are not in a calorie deficit.
We did an episode a few weeks ago with 10 things you need to know about calories, but you guys had a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
So it turns out we didn't cover everything you needed to know about calories. Why do they say you can't outrun a bad diet?
Running to burn 1,000 calories, an hour and a half. Time to eat a Krispy Kreme 1,000 calorie donut, 20 seconds.
Is it true that I don't need to track my vegetables?
What's more important, calories or protein?
Hi, I'm Jaymie.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is the Body Smart Podcast.
We are women's weight loss experts on a mission to help you feel in control of your health and your weight. And on that note, we did an episode a few weeks ago with 10 things you need to know about calories. And we talked about calorie deficits, knowing how to track your food, what to do if you want to lose weight, maintain your weight. But you guys had a lot of questions. So it turns out we didn't cover everything you needed to know about calories. So I have got a list of questions from you guys, and we are just going to work through them today.
Let's go.
Hopefully any burning questions you had will be answered. But if not, you can always DM the page, so the Instagram page at Jaymie Moran, and we will get back to you with some helpful advice.
Yeah. Or you can throw them in the comments on, if you're watching on YouTube, you could throw them in the comments there too, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Okay, so question number 1. Why are the calories that I've been given by the calculator the same as my BMR? How will I physically sustain myself if this is my basal metabolic rate?
Ooh, I mean, you just got to look at it, and this is assumed for a calorie deficit, right? Yeah, so you just got to look at it as like, you don't have to go as low as your BMR. In some cases, some people do or want to, and they can achieve a larger calorie deficit and lose weight faster. But if you are on those calories, you just have to get creative with the food. So you want to make smarter food choices where you get a lot of volume of food. So you're actually eating maybe lower calories than you maybe ever have, but you're having high volumes of food. So it just, even though you're eating fewer calories, you're not actually eating less food.
So we mean things that are low calorie density. So like if you think about vegetables, lean proteins, you can get like a lot of physical food for not that many calories.
Yeah, salad.
I think also maybe the question might be about like, if I need that many calories just to physically run my body, then if I'm only eating that many calories, how will I like get through the day? But that is literally the point of a calorie deficit.
Exactly.
So your body isn't going to shut down because you're not eating enough to do your daily activities. It's going to turn to its reserve energy stores, which is your fat cells. And that is the entire goal in a calorie deficit. So you can eat at your BMR. You can eat lower than your BMR. We don't recommend it, as we covered on the last episode, just because you're probably going to struggle to get enough nutrients if you go super low. So if you're like eating 800-900 calories, but eating at your BMR, if that's like 1,200, 1,400 calories, it can be done. And especially if you're choosing high volume foods, they're whole foods. They're going to be filled with more nutrients. If you're going to eat 1,400 calories of meal replacement bars and 100 calorie snacks and protein shakes, probably not the best. But you can definitely eat well, and your physical energy will come from your energy stores, i.e. your fat.
Yeah, and that's just the best way of looking at it, is like if you've got excess body fat, you've got stored energy on your body. And even though hunger may be a little bit more present or could be more present, it doesn't mean that your body's not got the energy to be able to maintain and keep doing what you need to do on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, question number 2. My maintenance is 2,200 calories. I'm only eating 1,200 calories, but I'm not losing weight.
Right. So this happens a lot, and sometimes there's always typically two things that is going on when somebody's saying like, I'm eating on this calorie goal and I'm not losing weight. One is the calorie goal you've been given is incorrect, which can happen. Like calorie calculators aren't 100% accurate, but like the more common one is that people are just tracking the food inaccurately. So we spoke about this in the last episode, which is people can be eating between 50 and 100% more calories than they believe. So you believe you're eating 1,200 calories, but if we were actually, it's actually this thing called what is it, like double labelly water.
Yeah.
And we've shared the BBC documentary a while ago. I think it was of like Debbie, and she was like, convinced that she was eating like 14 or 1,500 calories. They done the double labelly water. Let's just call it that until Sai gets the real name. And she was eating like 3,000, and she was shocked. She thought, I've got a slow metabolism. It's me. And she was like, God, I guess I can't use that excuse anymore. And then when I just followed her around, she just like didn't track before she ate. There was loads of foods that she just counted inaccurately.
Didn't weigh the food.
Didn't weigh the food. And then also like food packaging can be out by 20 to 30%. So you have something that says 200 calories and it could be 240, 260.
Yeah.
So all of those things combined, this lady might believe, or somebody might believe that they're eating 1,200 calories and it's like actually 2,400. So that's like really infuriating to hear sometimes. But I just try and take that frustration and be like, okay, like maybe I just need to look at this more closely, because if you are eating 2,400 calories, you know, there's probably loads of things that you're actually having that like are not that satiating or that
You're not going to
filling.
miss that much.
Yeah, so if you can actually just make changes and you are maintaining on 2,200, you can put yourself in a deficit of 1,700 calories a day, and probably those extra foods that you weren't even accounting for probably were more calorie dense, and probably weren't like the smartest food choices. So you could probably eat more food on 1,700 calories, 500 less than you were currently on, and start losing weight.
Yeah. And just to point out, when we're saying like you're not capturing everything in your tracking, is perfectly normal. I'm tracking my food at the moment to keep an eye on my protein, and I didn't track before I ate yesterday because it was busy. We were in and out of here recording, and I got to the end of the day, I was like, oh, I've only eaten 800 calories. That's a bit weird. I woke up this morning, I was like, oh no, I had hummus and breadsticks, and I had a Lucozade Sport, and I had 4 Haribos, but I just completely forgotten them.
Yeah.
I was sat there like racking my brain of like, I'm sure I haven't eaten that little. No, I must have done, and put my phone down.
Yeah.
And I know how to track properly, and I'm conscious of my food intake, and I still forget.
It happens. Like it happens to so many people. And I would say like, I'm not going to say 100, I'm going to say 98 or 99% of clients that come to Body Smart track the food inaccurately. So if you're listening and that's you, who's thinks you're on this amount of calories, but your maintenance says it's this, just like I would say categorically, you are not tracking your food correctly, and that is the opportunity to get you to start losing weight again.
And I've had clients like this in this situation before, and they get so angry about the fact, like, it's not, I'm eating 1,200 calories. I'm like, okay, we have 2 choices. We can go on in the rest of your life thinking that you have to eat 1,200 calories to maintain your weight. And that is going to be what you believe for the rest of your life. And if you then believe that, you believe that you have to eat 700 calories to lose weight. Or we can get to the bottom of it and you can find out, like, what do I actually get to eat when I'm at maintenance?
Yeah.
Because if you found out, like, oh, do you know what? I can actually eat 1,600 calories when I'm in a deficit, and I can eat 2,300 calories when I'm maintaining my weight. That's a much nicer way to live the rest of your life. But it does mean that you have to, like, look in the mirror right now and challenge yourself a little bit.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, question number 3. Similar, but different. I've been in a deficit and I've been working out, but I'm gaining weight. Is this muscle?
So first, let's just like break down on like how long it would take to build muscle. So like Ronnie Coleman, who was a world-class bodybuilder, I think he won Mr. Olympia 8 times, insane genetics, performance-enhancing drugs, said that he would gain around 10 pounds of muscle in a year, which is 0.83 pounds a month. And this is a guy who lifts weights like nobody else, like it's like just built to lift weights, insane genetics and drugs.
And testosterone.
And as a guy, 0.83 pounds a month. So if you're on a calorie deficit of 500 calories a week, a day, sorry, you're going to lose a pound a week. It's like 4.3 pounds a month. So even if you were Ronnie Coleman, world-class genetics, and could gain that amount of muscle because he would have been in a surplus, not a deficit, you would still lose 3.5 pounds of fat in a month if you were in just a 500 calorie a day deficit, which means you're categorically not gaining muscle at such a rate that you're not losing fat. And this like really upsets like some women. Like I've brought this up a couple of times, and I'm not saying this to like disempower anyone or whatever else. You're like, oh, my clothes are fitting better, I'm feeling better, I'm looking better. And most of the time it's because the things that you're doing, whether that's strength training or exercising more or making better food choices, you're less bloated, you feel better, you've got more energy, you're training harder. And yes, you probably over a couple of months may have lost a little bit of fat and gained a little bit of muscle, and that's why your weight is still...
You change shape.
But like that happens over like 3, 6, 9 months. Like it's like 3-month increments to see changes. And yes, you might not see big scale changes at all. And so you are seeing changes in body composition. But if you categorically want to lose body fat, you should be seeing the scales come down on a like week by week or bi-weekly basis as a trend. And if you are not, you are not in a calorie deficit.
Yeah, which kind of goes back to point 2.
Yes.
Question 2. Yeah. Okay. Next up, what's more important, calories or protein?
Calories are king for fat loss. But protein is going to be... So calories are king for fat loss. You could just eat table sugar all day. If you eat... yeah, it'd be flipping grim. You know what I mean? You could drink Coca-Cola all day. You can eat McDonald's every day. If you consume fewer calories than your body burns, you'll lose weight. Like that is like the fundamental principle. However, if you want to make being in a calorie deficit more enjoyable and not miserable and not hungry all the time, making smarter food choices, eating enough protein, eating enough fiber, making smart food choices, eating more whole foods, like it just makes it easier. So protein is really important. So when we lose weight, we maximize fat loss, not just weight loss. And the 3 main things that you're going to want to do to make sure that when you lose weight, it is as much fat as possible and as not as much muscle is get enough protein, do resistance training, and making sure that you get enough sleep.
And why should people care about losing muscle? Because they might be like, I don't care, I just want to be smaller.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to lose weight, but when people say they want to lose weight, most of the time they say they want to lose fat. Or what they actually mean, sorry, is they want to lose fat. So if you ever said I want to look toned, what tone means is lose fat, build muscle. So when you lose weight, you want to maximize fat loss and maintain as much muscle or even build muscle while you're going through a deficit. That's going to be better for your overall metabolic health. You're going to burn more calories when you eventually hit your weight loss goal.
Because having more muscle mass means your body is more hungry, in simple terms. So somebody who's 60 kilos, who's got a higher percentage of muscle mass, is going to burn more calories day to day than somebody who's got a lower muscle mass at the same weight, which is why you want to keep as much muscle as you can whilst losing the fat.
Yeah, I think actually one of the big issues with semaglutide and GLP-1s and Ozempic is the other big name that people know, is that when people have, I think Peter Attia done MRI scans, not MRI, he's done DEXA scans, which is like a mini MRI, of people who took a GLP-1 and then they took it again after being on the protocol for so long, and they lost a lot of weight, but they lost a lot of muscle because they weren't having high protein diets, they weren't getting great sleep still, they weren't doing resistance training. So even though they lost weight, they got fatter. And that's something that you really want to avoid because that's making you metabolically unhealthy, which is something that you want to avoid.
And it also means your maintenance calories are going to be lower than they would have been. So where we were saying earlier, you're going to believe for the rest of your life you have to eat 1,200 calories or you're going to gain weight. Actually, if you lose a lot of muscle, maybe not 1,200 calories, but lower, it is going to be true. It is going to be less than what you're used to. And the other thing is, like, having above average muscle mass is a huge predictor for reduction in all-cause mortality. Mm-hmm. So it's about a 30% reduction in all-cause mortality by just having above average muscle mass. Yeah. So any muscle you got, you want to keep it.
100%. So we're coming back to calories and protein. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. So 100 grams of protein, 400 calories. Most women are going to need somewhere between 80 and 90 and like 140 to 50. It's going to depend. It's going to range specifically for you. But like even 150 grams of protein, which I would say is a lot for most women, it's still 600 calories a day. So you can factor that into your calorie intake. Yeah. And if you struggle to hit your protein, just build your day with protein first. Like build all your protein into your meals and then add everything else on top of it.
So what we mean by that is instead of saying, right, we're going to have pasta for dinner, what will we have with pasta? Be like, okay, we're going to have chicken for dinner. What will we have with chicken? We'll have a little bit of pasta, have a bit of salad. And that just helps your mindset of like getting the protein into every meal. Something that I also want to cover off on this question, you said about getting 100 grams of protein.
Yes.
That doesn't mean like 100 grams of chicken breast. So what we mean by that is if you put 100 grams of chicken breast in your phone, it will tell you how much protein is in that amount of chicken breast. And it's going to be like 25 grams of protein. So technically you would need 400 grams of chicken, let's say. Mm-hmm. Obviously you don't have to just get it from chicken, but it is a question that I get asked a lot actually of like, how am I going to eat 100 grams of chicken breast or like what? There's a bit of a misconception there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've just, and it's just like a new way of eating for you. And like typically what we'll see is that like most people don't get any protein in their breakfast. So that can be like a great opportunity to start with. Like, hey, how can you start to get like 15 to 25 and then maybe 20 to 30 grams of protein in your breakfast? and then just trying to make sure that you do that on like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's really hard if you don't have like a good amount of protein in your breakfast to then squeeze it all in at the end of the day, unless you want to be like eating an egg white omelette and drinking protein shakes at the end of the day, which no one wants to do or will do.
Yeah.
So, making sure you have a high protein breakfast is just going to like lower your blood sugar. You're not going to have as much of a blood sugar crash if you just haven't used to having loads of carbohydrates. So you're going to feel fuller for longer, feel more satiated. And it's just going to make it easier to hit your protein goals as the day goes on.
And it doesn't have to be like this big faff either, because I think there's a bit of a like an ease associated with a carby kind of base breakfast. So like cereal, toast, it's quick.
Yeah.
But eggs on toast is pretty quick. Like the time it takes your toast to toast, you can scramble some eggs in the microwave. Yeah. So there are lots of things like Greek yogurt. Just get it out the fridge. There you go. A big bowl of Greek yogurt, some berries, some nuts. You can be 20 grams of protein easy. It's just changing habits.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 5 is it true that I don't need to track my vegetables or greens?
No, you definitely need to track it. You need to track everything. And sometimes it can feel silly. You know what I mean? Like you track like a cucumber and it's like
6 calories.
Something ridiculous. But it's more just to build the habit of track before you eat and track everything. Because as we said, so many people get this wrong, that when you just start to say, oh, this doesn't count, this doesn't count. Then when you hit those plateaus, it's like, well, what was it? Because you can go and buy like pre-cooked vegetables, and like a serving out of the box can be like 400 calories, which is like...
Because they've got oil and stuff.
Yeah. Which can be like a considerable amount of calories to add on when you're going, oh, it's vegetables, it's fine.
It's
free.
also which vegetables you're counting and not counting. Because, cucumber, spinach, kale. Actually, do you know what kale's like? Got maybe like 40 calories per serving. But there are a lot of vegetables where you're like, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
However, you start looking at things like carrots, sweet potato, parsnips. Actually, if you don't count those, you could easily be at a couple hundred calories a day. So rather than having some rules for some things, some rules for others, we just say just anything that enters your mouth goes in your MyFitnessPal. Yes. Same for fruit as well, because we get asked a lot about fruit, like on both ends of the spectrum. How much fruit is too much fruit? Do I need to cut out fruit? Do I need to track fruit? Honestly, if you're having 5 fruit and vegetables a day, then most of them should be from vegetables. Mostly because there's more variety in the nutrients that are in vegetables and generally lower sugar. Particularly if you're in a calorie deficit, then you're going to get more volume, less calorie density from your vegetables. So you could, for the same amount of like volume of grapes, like let's say a big handful of grapes compared to a big handful of spinach, we all know which one's got less calories in.
Yeah.
And which one are you going to overeat more easily? It's going to be the grapes. So they're not bad for you by any means, but you could easily...
What about those grapes you bought?
Oh my gosh.
What were they called?
Those M&S grapes.
Oh, no, but they were like...
Yeah. They're like candy.
Yeah.
They're really good. But they're so sugary.
Yeah.
They're like specially bred grapes are really, really sweet. But, like a handful of those grapes could probably be like 200 calories. And you think, oh, it's only fruit. But if you're in a calorie deficit, all calories count.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 6. My Fitbit says I burned 500 calories. Should I eat an extra 500 calories today?
No. Most smartwatches are somewhere between, I'd say like 30 and 100% out. And there's a couple of studies on this to like show how bad they are and how far they are out. And it can deceive you like, oh, my Fitbit's saying I've burnt like 2,300 or 2,500 calories today. But when I eat 23 or 2,500 calories, I'm gaining weight. And it's like, yeah, because they're just wildly off. I've seen people typing on a keyboard and they've racked up 10,000 steps in a day because they type so fast. And it's like they've sat down all day. Not that they wouldn't be burning calories from non-exercise, from
just
typing.
Not that many.
Just nowhere near that many.
Yeah. And the other thing with it is if it's saying like you burn 500 calories from a workout because you've like at the beginning of your workout, you've pressed start workout, done your workout, that's just a very general average that they've used. They've said, right, the average person exercising for this amount of time with this heart rate would burn this many calories. That's not specific to you. The other thing is you don't want to add those back in because if you've used our calorie quiz, you will have been asked how many workouts a week you're going to do. And that's already been accounted for in the goal that you've been given for that day. So if you then go and add it back in, you're undoing some of the deficit that's already been factored for you. So the same happens on MyFitnessPal. If you don't turn off the setting, which is add back steps or exercise, it will tell you you've got 500 extra calories to eat. But if you do that, you're going to maybe potentially be back-end and maintenance, not a calorie deficit situation.
You're better to use a calorie calculator and get like an exact goal and then just stick with that calorie goal. And if you want to be more fluid with this, like you can go on the settings on MyFitnessPal where you can look at the net calorie average for the week. So say you've got 1,700 calories, you might go like Monday 17, Tuesday 17, Wednesday 17, but then you might go, right, hey, Thursday, Friday, I'm going to do 15 and bank those extra 200 and then have an extra 400 on Saturday. So now instead of having 17, you're having 2,100. You have an extra glass of wine, you have a couple of slices of pizza or whatever you decide to factor in. But then your net average is still the same over the course of the week. That's a much better way of having more fluidity with the calories than just being like, oh, well, I've done more steps today, I'm going to eat more. Or I've done an extra workout today, so I'm going to eat more. It's better to just that not be the case.
Yeah. There's two sides to it, because if you do have that mindset of I've done a workout, I'm going to eat more, it really plays into that diet mentality of I have to earn my food. And so that's one of the reasons that we really discourage it as well. It's the mental side of it of like exercise doesn't equal eating. You get to eat more. You exercise because you exercise for your health, to build muscle, to feel good. And you eat the way you eat for whatever you're trying to achieve with your physique right now. In decoupling the two is so empowering. And it's one of the big mindset shifts that our clients say just like changes their relationship with food, because they don't feel like they have to earn their food or they have to the next day get up and burn off like the pizza that they had on a Saturday. It's already been planned and accounted for over the week. However, on the flip side of that, if you have done like, I don't know if you're into running, for example, and you go and do like an hour-long run, you very well might be a bit more hungry that day than the next day. So if you are a bit more hungry, add some extra potatoes to your dinner. Go 100 calories, 200 calories over today. And tomorrow, if you don't go for a run, you'll probably be a bit less hungry. So just balance it back out tomorrow. So as Jaymie was saying, your calorie goal being the same every day is there as a bit of a guide. Like you don't have to be a robot. You're not a robot. You're a human. And it can flex up and down as long as over the week you're still where you want to be. Okay, number 7. How accurate are the calories on menus and food packaging? Not very.
Yeah, menus horrendous. Like so bad. We went to the minister. Should I even say the name?
We went out for dinner.
We went out for dinner, and on the menu it said chips or fries. Or like, what was it? It's like
106 calories.
106 calories or something. I'd be like, what's this going to be like? One chunky chip?
Yeah, because you know when you go to like a fancy restaurant, sometimes you get like 3 fat chips stacked. I was like, well, it was quite a pricey restaurant. So I was like, well, maybe. Maybe
that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead of a huge portion, not a huge portion, but like a significant portion came over.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's like 400 calories, not like 106, maybe more, to be honest.
Yeah.
So there's like a 4x difference in what the menu said versus, and that's on one item of food.
And actually, I had breakfast the other day with one of our coaches, Luke, and it was a sweet potato and mushroom hash. I was like, oh, that sounds nice. And it said on the menu like 600 calories. And I was like, I mean, even if they lather it in oil and maybe hummus, you're going to be pushed to make sweet potatoes and mushrooms add up to 600 calories. Yeah. And it came out and it wasn't even a big portion. Now, obviously, that was in the other direction. And I know enough about food that I was like, I'm going to track each individual ingredient, add a bit of oil, and it's probably like 300 calories.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that either direction is not 100% accurate.
Yeah.
And so really the skill here is learning what's in your food. And if you cook from home and you start to look at individual ingredients and you're tweaking meals because you're pre-tracking your food and you see, oh, if I add this much oil, it's going to add 120 calories. Okay, I'll cut it back. When you then go to a restaurant, you can kind of sense check, like, does this add up with what they're saying on the menu? Because if I cooked that, what would that roughly be?
Yeah.
And it is a skill. And obviously we're a bit weird because we can look at a plate of food and
probably tell you what's in it. Yeah.
And we're not expecting you guys to have that level of like internal MyFitnessPal. But if you can get some level of internal MyFitnessPal, you just feel so much more in control. And if that food comes out and you look at it and you go, do you know what, that is probably like 1,400 calories on that plate, which is not unusual in a restaurant, you can decide like, hey, I'm going to just eat half, or I'm going to push that bit over to the side and I'm not going to eat that little high density bit. because you know what's in your food.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably a much more rare situation that's got fewer calories in. I'd say like a lot of restaurants have probably got double the calories in what's on the menu. And again, it's like if you're, as much as like we and loads of our clients go and eat out and enjoy themselves and whatever else, but you do have to be mindful about it. If you are just working really hard all week and when you go out and eat twice, and that restaurant you thought had 800 calories and it had 2,000 in, and you've done that twice in a week, that's an extra 2,400 calories. So, you know, instead of you maybe losing a pound that week, you might lose 0.19 pounds or 2 pounds. It's like you might not even see that in the scales, and then that can frustrate you and it can affect your motivation and then affect your consistency. So it's just something that you have to be like really aware of. Restaurants is a really big one. And sometimes it's a case of just asking for dressings on the side, asking for things to be cooked a certain way. Can this be boiled? Can this be grilled? You know, and it just allows you to be more mindful with the choices that you're making, looking at the menu before you go to that restaurant. Sometimes even phoning up the restaurant like, hey, can you accommodate for this? And again, it's just allowing you to be more in control and more mindful. You still get to go and have the experience. You still get to eat out, but you still get to hit your goals. You are quite literally having your cake and eating it, which is a great place to be, but it just takes a little bit more intentional effort.
Yeah, and being aware that they're not particularly accurate puts you in the driving seat rather than, like you said, thinking you're doing everything right and then not seeing the results that you're expecting. Just to come to food packaging, like actually the legislation means they can be up to 20% out. So again, it could be either way. And it's not just the calorie content as well. It can be like the weight of the food that's in there. So I saw something going around on social media recently about meat in British supermarkets. It's got like, say it's like 500 grams. It's got like a little E next to it. It means average packet will contain 500 grams.
Right.
But some have got like 450 and some have got 550. So again, even more reason to just weigh your food at home and get used to like, what does that actual portion look like for me? Because then you're not taking things as read as what's on the packet.
Yeah, I think that's a big part why we can look at food and pretty much guesstimate it pretty close, is because we've spent the time doing that and have developed that skill. So if someone shows you like a 200 gram chicken breast, you're like, oh, that's 200 grams of chicken. It's like however much amount of protein. And you can kind of like guesstimate it to an extent. If you have no idea, you've never weighed attractive food before, you're a bit like, huh? Like, what? How much? You know what I mean? So it's a...
And people think like, oh, you're a bit obsessive, or like you guys have taken it to the next level to know that much about food. But I just think it's one of those things like you learn it and then it's there. It's like a resource in your mind. I don't look at every plate of food and go, oh, that's 160 grams of chicken. And I just eat my food. But when I need to tap into it, it's there. Yeah.
Like I don't stress about food at all anymore. I think about it. It's like a very easy thing to just kind of balance and just go through the day to day. So no, it's been a fantastic skill to learn and continues to serve me every single day. But yeah, it's not something that like, me and you aren't just like under, like Steph takes the mick out of me and it's like, how many calories in this then? You know, when we go somewhere new, and then when I guess it like within 20 or 30 calories, she's like, how do you do that? But it's like, typically I'll just look at the food or the bar or whatever it is, and I'll just like break down the carbohydrates, fats and protein in each one of them and just like kind of do the math in my head.
I mean, maybe we are a bit weird, but it's a useful word.
Ever wondered why losing weight seems so hard after you hit 30? You're not alone. At Body Smart, we specialise in helping women like you over the age of 30 to lose 30 to 60 pounds in less than 6 months, guaranteed. And that's without restrictive diets or endless hours in the gym. Our approach works because it's delivered through customised, direct, one-on-one coaching. Your coach will tailor a fully personalised plan that fits into your life, focusing on sustainable habits, not temporary fixes. On average, our clients lose 5 to 10 pounds a month, and that's not an outlier. That's what you can expect to achieve month in, month out. And yes, these results are guaranteed. Ready to see for yourself? Visit bodysmartfitness.com to apply. Remember, we're here exclusively for women over 30 who are serious about taking charge of their health. Apply at bodysmartfitness.com.
Okay, question number 8. I'm in a deficit, but I'm struggling to maintain it because I'm always so hungry.
Yeah, so if that's the case, it's I'd want to ask like, how long have you been in a deficit for? How much weight have you lost up to this point? Because they can be some indicators of like maybe like a diet break could be useful for a set period of time. If anyone is considering a diet break, This is not an excuse to just go and eat whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, I
This
actually
is
like to call it a maintenance period.
a maintenance period. Let's go with that.
Because diet break sounds like, woo, free for
Yeah.
all.
So like a maintenance break. So it would be taking your calories up to maintenance. You'll gain a little bit of weight. There'll be quite a bit of water, only like a couple of pounds. And then you just stay there for a week, a couple of weeks, even a month. And then it just allows you to go back into a deficit and see more results. Your motivation will be higher. You'll feel better. You'll have more energy. You'll be ready and raring to go again. And that's if someone's like lost a lot of weight over a long period of time. That could be one good part. The other one is if you're like hungry all the time, like I'd want to just like look at what, like how much water you drink and what your sleep's like, what your food choices like. Are you eating enough protein? Are you getting enough fiber?
Whole foods.
Are you managing your stress? Are you turning to food to manage your stress?
We actually have a whole episode on this. So episode 85 is how to handle your appetite. And there's just so many factors, actually. We couldn't cover them all just now, but definitely go and listen to that episode if this is a struggle for you.
Yeah, so there's lots of things that you can do to mitigate hunger as much as you can. But hunger at times will be a part of a calorie deficit. And that's something that is to be expected. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, I expected to be hungry. I might not want to be hungry. And if I'm hungry all the time so much that it's affecting my day-to-day life and I can't concentrate and it's making it really difficult to stick to the diet, or then I go and overeat, then yeah, that's something to like really look to address. But at times you will be hungry. Like a calorie deficit is controlled starvation. You know, it is at the end of the day in a controlled manner. You are controlling your calories. So your body uses the stored fat and energy and uses that as the surplus of energy to get you back to maintenance.
I think it's also important to say, like, there isn't a set amount of deficit that you have to be in. So if you go on the calorie quiz and you say you want to lose like moderate weight loss, it will give you a 500 calorie deficit. If you're in a 300 calorie deficit, you're still in a deficit. You will still lose weight, but it will just be a bit slower. So if you find 500 calories too difficult, you could do 300 calories and just know that it's going to take a bit longer. There's no like black and white, right or wrong amount.
And just to come back to that though, if you are doing a smaller deficit, it becomes even more important to make sure that you are tracking everything to the degree. Because if you now get something wrong, your deficit can just go super quick. So you need to be extremely mindful. Hey, I want to be in a smaller deficit so my hunger and appetite isn't as bad. But you need to make sure that you are like tracking everything 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, question number 9. Why do they say abs are made in the kitchen or you can't outrun a bad diet when you guys say that a calorie deficit could be from food or energy output / exercise?
It's much easier to eat 1,000 calories in a donut than it is to run 1,000 calories. Like that's it. Like running to burn 1,000 calories, an hour and a half, 90 minutes.
Well, for me, yeah.
Yeah. So long time commitment. Time to eat a Krispy Kreme 1,000 calorie donut. 20 seconds, maybe a minute. So when you just look at the discrepancy of time, it's much easier to just way overeat on calories than it would be to like burn those amount of calories off. The reason we say do both is because we want to cut calories a little bit, lower than what you're currently on, and then increase output by getting you working out more regularly, increasing the intensity, frequency, and duration of your workouts. And increasing your steps they're like the main levers that we will pull for getting people more active, as well as eating more whole foods and more protein. Again, you'll burn more calories doing that. That then increases that person's output probably a lot more than they already are. And then we decrease the calories as well. And then that creates a calorie deficit where we're pulling both levers.
And it means you don't necessarily have to go that low that you're struggling with the hunger, because you're eating enough that your body's actually getting nourished because you're making up some of the deficit from activity.
Yeah.
And you're also creating healthy habits that are going to serve you once you've reached your goal. So if you keep up that level of activity once you reach your goal, you're going to just generally be healthier, but you're going to find it so much easier to maintain your weight as well, because now your baseline that your body can burn every day because of your new habits is higher. So your maintenance now gets to be higher.
Yeah.
Win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, number 10. How do I hit my protein and fiber within low calories?
A similar question to the one about protein and calories before. You just need to start so, hey, today is Monday, tomorrow is Tuesday. I'm going to look at my calorie total for tomorrow, and I'm going to put in all the protein and fiber first. So let's say I'm having 100 grams of protein, 400 calories. Let's say I'm having 30 grams of fiber, 120 calories. So there's 520 calories, and I've hit my protein, I've hit my fiber goal. Now add everything everything else back in there. So if you anything that you struggle to hit, if you just build your day around that first, it just becomes significantly easier to hit it.
Yeah.
So
It's a very different way of meal planning for people. But one tactic that I like to use with clients is it does require sitting down for half an hour and doing this once, but write out all the protein sources that you like on Post-it notes. So like chicken, tuna, steak, shrimp, whatever. And then work out, right, how much of each one do I need to get 30 grams of protein? We've actually got a good cheat sheet for this. So if you DM the page, we can send it. But like, say you write on there 100 grams of chicken, 125 grams of shrimp, whatever. So they're your Post-it notes. Then you go through on your fiber, and that might be like quinoa, breakfast cereal, whole grain bread, whatever. And then you just go and plan your meals based on sticking your Post-it notes on your meals. And then you fill in the gaps. So like, right, I'm going to have chicken and quinoa. Okay, I want to have that with like a barbecue sauce, and I want to have my peppers and whatever. But you've started with those, and that visual can be really helpful for people, because the way that we tend to meal plan is not as strategic. We tend to like look for a recipe. Oh, that looks nice. And we'll plan that for tomorrow's dinner. And then we'll think of something that we want for lunch. And then we just hope that it adds up. You kind of got to reverse engineer it. Once you've got the hang of like portions that you need in each meal, then you can go a bit more freestyle. Then you can be like, okay, yeah, that recipe looks nice. I'll just increase the size of the chicken that I put in, or whatever you might do. But to really get that skill and that foundation, picking your meals apart into their pieces and like building them up like building blocks can really help you get the hang of it.
yeah, that's great advice. Yeah.
Okay, question number 11. What is starvation mode? Is this why the calorie deficit isn't working for me?
Starvation mode isn't a real thing. So we've talked about it. It was the Minnesota
experiment, yeah.
Which is basically where they starved a bunch of guys for a set period of time, and they lost like a significant amount of body weight. I don't know the exact stats off the top of my head, but basically,
I've got them here actually.
Oh, you've got them.
Yeah,
here.
they starved them for 6 months, and they cut their caloric intake by 50% to mimic the conditions of a European famine during the war. And they were just eating stuff that was available in wartime Europe, which was potatoes, bread, pasta, turnips. The men lost 25% of their body weight in 24 weeks.
Yeah, insane.
So their bodies didn't stop losing weight, but the weight loss did change over that time. So it did slow down over that time.
And we can explain why as well.
Yeah.
So like your basal, as you lose weight, your basal metabolic rate, which is how many calories you burn at rest, will get lower because you become a smaller person, so because you have less total weight. So your basal metabolic rate needs fewer calories. You probably would have also seen that their non-exercise activity would have slowed down. When you're in such an aggressive deficit, you will walk less, move less, you will get up more slowly. Bodybuilders who have been in extreme deficits have reported talking more slowly, blinking less. Like it seems ridiculous, but like this is your body trying to metabolically adapt to the lower calorie intake to keep you alive for a longer period of time.
Which is what people call starvation mode, right?
Yeah.
You've starved your body, so it goes into a slower mode.
Yeah.
So technically it is true, but it doesn't mean that a deficit stops working. These men still lost weight.
Yeah, I think that's the part that people say. People go, oh, I'm not losing weight because I'm in starvation mode. It's like, no, you're not losing weight because you're not in a calorie deficit. But you may have been on such, because we have this with loads of women, like they've been on such low calories and so undernourished for such a long period of time, and then so many crash diets and yo-yoed up and down, up and down, up and down, that when we actually put them on like a higher calorie intake than they're used to, which is still below what their maintenance is, they feel nourished, they have more energy, they're exercising more, they feel happier, they're getting the steps in. And they're like, I've never eaten so much food and I'm losing so much weight. And it's like, yeah, because they're used to crash dieting on 800 calories, 1,000 calories. We've got them on 1,500, so like a huge percentage increase, and they're walking a bit more, they're feeling better, they're nourishing themselves, they're making smarter food choices, and they're in a deficit and losing weight.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes full circle now because they're having more calories and they've got more nourishment, they're sleeping better, they're moving more. Because they're moving more, they can diet on higher calories. Because they're training, they can diet on higher calories. So yeah, like that's the part when you go, I'm in starvation mode, that's why I'm not losing weight. Like that's just not technically true.
Yeah.
But you could have a lower overall, your metabolism could overall be slower because your body's just got used to function on so few calories.
I did actually do the maths to kind of make the point, really, because in this extreme experiment, the guys were on 50% of their calories. So let's say you're a woman whose maintenance calories is 1,800. That means you're eating 900 calories
It's very extreme.
for half a year. Like no breaks, no diet breaks, no weekends out. Like that's an extreme situation. Their BMR reduced by 40%.
Holy shit.
So, but this is the thing, that's their BMR. So that's their basal metabolic rate. And as we talked about in the other calorie episode, that's only one part of your total daily energy expenditure.
Yeah.
So if we look at me as an example, my total daily energy expenditure is about 2,200, but my BMR is about 1,400 of that.
Yeah.
So if I was to starve myself on 50% of my calories for half a year, I mean, it might kick in quicker, but if I lost 40% of my BMR, it doesn't mean that I can now only eat 1,100 calories because only the BMR bit is affected. So my calorie requirements don't go from 2,200 to 1,300. It goes to more like 1,650-ish. So it's still, if I was eating in a calorie deficit of 500, yeah, maybe it would have stopped working. But I wasn't. I was eating in a calorie deficit of 50%. So if I continued eating at 50%, I would continue losing weight.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it is a thing. And when we're like, oh, starvation mode isn't a thing. It is a thing. But for it to actually affect your weight loss in the way that people feel like it is, you would be having to be so extreme. So being aware that your metabolic rate can adapt is important. But also knowing the things you can do to help mitigate that is important.
Yeah, and what they are is, I know we sound like a broken record, it's eating whole foods, getting enough protein, making sure you're hitting your steps and tracking your steps, and making sure you're tracking your workouts, getting your workouts in and getting your sleep. What gets measured gets managed, and measuring your outputs is just as important as measuring your inputs, especially when you're dieting.
Yeah. Okay, question number 12. If I'm in a high deficit, is this going to mess up my hormones?
Oh,
It kind of like links to the last question a bit because
yeah, it does. Yeah.
one of the things that your metabolism will do, like, I mean, your brain is conscious, but your body doesn't consciously go, ooh, we're not getting enough food. Let's switch off things. But that is effectively what your body does. And it will be like, well, this is not a good time to have a baby. Let's switch off periods.
Yes.
So it definitely does have an impact. And if we look at like athletes or people who have severe eating disorders, they lose their periods.
Yeah.
Their hormonal balances are definitely affected. It isn't a fixed line. There's no like set amount of deficit or time, or like each individual woman is different.
Yeah, it can happen, and we've had clients who have lost significant amounts of weight, and they have lost their period, and that's been something that's like, hey, like this is a normal part of a deficit, but if you're worried, like we can go out, we can take a small break. And we've had clients who've just pushed through, hit their weight loss goal, and then they've gone back to maintenance, and the periods come back. It makes sense. Like you've lost 50 pounds of weight, you're on a lower calorie intake. Like your body's doing what it's supposed to do to an extent. Like, can it mess up your hormones or negatively affect your hormones? Like you've got to just take in a calorie deficit. If you're at a healthy body weight, is like not the most optimal place to be. Like maintenance is. But if you are looking to lose weight, because losing weight and losing fat will get your health markers in a better place, then it is a right place. That it is going to be a good place to get into, because carrying around 30, 40, 50 pounds of extra body fat isn't going to be optimal for your hormones.
And actually that will
either.
affect your hormones,
Yeah.
because fat cells produce estrogen and insulin. And so your hormones probably weren't in the best balance in the first place.
Yeah. So, you've got to kind of look at it like, yes, like actually if you're, if you've got weight to lose and you need to get to a healthy weight and a healthy body fat percentage, being in a calorie deficit is again like a suboptimal place, I guess, for like overall energy levels, but is like it has a net positive once you get to your goal.
Yeah. And if we look at certain hormonal conditions like PCOS, getting your weight into a healthier place actually helps with that hormonal dysfunction.
Yep.
And can relieve a lot of symptoms. So it's not a one-size-fits-all answer, and it's just very dependent on where you are, how big of a deficit you want to do. Like, there's so many things. And this is one of the reasons why, if you're struggling and there's so many unknowns, actually having a coach can be really helpful to help you navigate.
Yeah.
Question number 13. How often should I revisit my daily calorie goals, especially if I'm losing a lot of weight?
Ooh, great question. I get this all the time. It depends. Lovely answer, isn't it? To be honest, like the amount of clients I've had to like change the calorie goal every week or every couple of weeks is like just zero. Often when we set a calorie goal for a client, that can stay. They can stay on that for sometimes till they hit their goal. Most of the time, actually, till they hit their goal. Sometimes it may need to adjust depending on how much weight they've got to lose, or just like how it plays out for them. But it's like I would say like if you have to change a calorie goal like every 6 months, or every 3 to 6 months, I'd say that's still quite.
I could actually probably count on one hand the number of clients I've had to change their calorie goal because in the time that they're losing weight, they're gaining muscle, they're becoming more active, they're making better food choices. And so it kind of like, yes, their weight comes down, but all the other elements of their metabolism are going up.
Yeah. So like if you're somebody who's just like losing weight from just diet and doing nothing else, then you may need to change your calorie goal more frequently to keep seeing the same amount of results. But if you are, and if you're losing the weight the way we coach women to lose weight, it's going to be the fact that we are encouraging healthy habits, and those healthy habits, like you said, are getting better and better and better over time. You're finding more opportunities to get stepped in here, parking at the back of the car park, you're jumping off a station earlier, you're getting more energy, so you're playing with your kids more, you're burning more calories, you're working out more intensely, you're building more muscle, you're getting stronger. It's like, okay, so like even though your basal metabolic rate may be going down, you're building muscle and you're overall getting more active and you're eating more whole foods and making smarter food choices. So you're burning more calories in other ways. So it kind of balances back out, and it's been rare with clients we've had to like consistently change their calorie goal.
Yeah. And then final question, how do I know what calorie deficit I should aim for?
It depends. Somewhere between 250 calories a day to 1,000 calories a day is like a range, like deficit. Somebody who's able to do like 1,000 calories a day, which is, you're going to lose about 2 pounds body fat a week. You're typically going to need to be heavier, taller, or extremely active. And that's like, they're going to be like the indicators for me that you can be in a large calorie deficit. If you are shorter, lighter, and inactive, you're going to be closer to the 250 calories a day, which you may view as like that is slower, but we've spoken about this before, like fast and slow is relative. And the main thing is that you can stay consistent until you reach your goal. So,
and I think it's really important that we pick this up actually, because I saw a comment in one of our testimonials, Pamela's testimonial this week.
Yeah.
And she was on 1,250 calories. And someone was like, that's only what a toddler eats. But Pamela isn't that tall and she had quite a sedentary lifestyle. And so that was what was required. And I think it's really important to remember that is just a season. That wasn't like, okay, Pamela's going to eat 1,250 calories for the rest of her life. It was like this short period of time while she reached her goal. And then she went back up to like 1,700, 1,800.
And probably even more if she's continued to stay, super active. Which again, it's like people get really emotional about like 1,200 calories or this is too low. And it's like, again, like we're not doing this to like starve women so they just hate their lives while they're being coached. I don't think we
it's
would.
Like the complete opposite, people say.
Yeah, exactly. So, like what we would have done with those like 1,200, we would have made every calorie count, you know what I mean? Or we would have made it to the point and, like if you look at our reviews, our clients aren't like, oh, like it was so hard and I felt so starved. It's like the complete opposite, as you just said. So, and you got to remember, like if you have a smaller body, you need fewer calories. So if you are shorter, if you're 130 pounds trying to get to 110 pounds, like you need fewer calories than somebody that's 240 pounds, like 100 pounds heavier. And also then activity plays a big role in it. And this is like also felt like logically makes sense. But for some reason, when we get to these hard lines of like 1,200 calories, it's like, oh no. Like,
and we have actually put like in red bold on our calorie quiz, if your recommended calories are under 1,200 calories, please consult with a healthcare professional, because people do get anxious about it.
Yeah.
And it isn't, like any calorie quiz isn't a take it as read as that's 100% right for you. It's just a guideline as somewhere to start. But it's not necessarily going to do you any harm as long as you're eating a good choice of foods, like we covered earlier. But the only way that you can really know is do a calorie quiz. We've got a free one at bodysmartfitness.com and use that as your starting point. If, like we said, you eat what it tells you to eat and you're losing weight, great. if you're losing weight really quick, you could probably afford to eat a bit more if you want to.
Yeah.
If you're not losing weight, you probably need to lower it a little bit. The only real answer of how much calorie deficit you need is shown on your results and how happy you are with that rate of progress.
100%.
So yeah, go over to the website if you want to get your calories and your protein goal for free, bodysmartfitness.com. Hopefully that's all your questions that you ever wanted to know about a calorie deficit answered. However, if not, and you are hungry for more, we have a whole nother episode all about calorie deficit, so you can really understand the ins and the outs of what a calorie deficit is and how to put it into practice. So go ahead and search episode number 91 of the Body Smart podcast.